Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time to Heart and Mind. I'm Dr. Dina McMillan, and we have an exciting show today that was suggested by one of the viewers last week, Roscoe Sings. And if Roscoe's around and wants to be on the show, let me know. I will send you the studio invite. But today we're talking about being socially ostracized, getting rejected. And I'm sure that impacts a lot of us. I've told you my story before. Today we want to talk about why it happens, but I also want to hear from you. I want to hear your stories about what you've experienced, what you've gone through. Now, this live stream is available every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On your screen, you can see the different times in the US: 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. And strangely enough, or I'm really glad about that, I have a lot of people in Australia that are watching too, especially on the eastern coast of Australia. So we're on at midday in most of the east coast of Australia, except for Queensland. Queensland does things a little differently. We're on at 11 a.m. We also have some people in the UK that watch the show and stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning to do so. So bless you and welcome aboard. That's really tough. That's dedication. But this is the only show where I bring social psychology to you. I show you all the tricks behind Oz's curtain, because we study learning, influence, persuasion, manipulation, coercion, indoctrination, brainwashing. And sometimes I've had to explain this because sometimes when I tell people this is what we study, they think we stand back and just observe what's going on in the world, but that's not true. The reason I always have the evil scientist is because we also do experiments where we figure out how to change someone's beliefs, behaviors, thinking, without them being alerted that it was the researcher, it was the people doing the study, it was the marketer, it was the political force, it was the government that intentionally used ways and methods that we know are effective to change someone's beliefs and behavior and have them take personal responsibility for it. And it works on all of us. One of the things I want to tell you too, I'm a social psychologist. I have been for more than 20 years. I still have to be careful. I teach caution. I'll show you what to look out for, but please know, I still have to use these methods myself, because otherwise these tactics are so effective. They work even if you recognize it. Even if you say, oh my goodness, that's a manipulative tactic there. If you don't get away from it, if you don't shield yourself, if you don't use some of the shielding methods that I talk about, it's still going to work. Isn't that scary? I'm hoping you're scared enough to keep watching, because I want to unplug everybody from the matrix. I want everyone in my audience to be able to see the strings of manipulation. Now, a lot of you, this is a Daily Cloud audience primarily, so a lot of you are really clever anyway, and a lot of you were already somewhat unplugged. Then COVID came along, or you watched what happened in the 2016 election and the way there was a huge disparity between what you heard Trump say or do and how it was reported in the media. And you started to say, well, wait a minute, I can't trust this anymore. I'm here to make you even smarter at doing this. And I'm going to show you the evil science. Now, speaking of being smart and speaking of shows like this that are designed to help you, I want you to support Daily Cloud's historic work. And one way you can do that is by ordering the Pfizer papers on Amazon. This book has invaluable information about what Pfizer knew, when they knew it, how they tried to hide it. If you still have relatives that are buying into the vaccine indoctrination, that's still going on. I know every place I've been, there's still people getting Vaccines still, every time I go to a pharmacy, they're offering vaccines. If you want to have evidence to actually show someone, this is the book to get. And you would be supporting Daily Cloud and people like me, people like Naomi Wolf. Dr. Wolf has done amazing work in this book. So please think about ordering it and do so today. Now, today we're talking about social exclusion, social rejection, not just due to COVID, but as I said, a lot of you woke up during COVID. You were awakened during COVID because as you read material about what was really going on, you had people who were buying into the mainstream narrative that was everywhere, and they may have treated you so badly, treated you in a way you never expected, or it could have been your political beliefs. Now, I'm hoping I have some people who watch this show who are actually Democrats. There's been such a division between the Democrats and Trump supporters. I won't call them Republicans because it's not traditional Republicans. It's people who support Trump. And some of those are Democrats or independents or don't really declare a party. But have your political beliefs cost you a lot of trouble? Have people that you cared about or considered important to you rejected you or treated you differently, or because of your religious or moral beliefs? If you are Christians, especially, there has been, I would say, you think it's recent because you probably just started noticing it since you started to awaken. But believe me, the war on Christianity started probably in the 60s, when socialism started being spread in the universities. There was also a lot of anti-Christian sentiment that started getting bigger and bigger. And we've talked before about how that was done by having all the storytelling, which is how our brain processes the rules for our society through our storytelling. So that's books, ads, it's movies, it's TV, it's radio. All of the people who were the heroes or heroines in these shows and these films and these different mediums, all of a sudden, none of them were Christian. And they always poo-pooed Christian beliefs. And over the last 10 years, there are a lot of very popular shows on some of the mainstream streaming mediums like Netflix, where the people actually are rude, horrible, dismissive about Christianity in a way they would never be about another religion. Moral beliefs can also be a problem. My moral beliefs are more traditional, not just because I'm Christian, but because I'm a social scientist. I have learned actions, consequences. And when you start doing that and you start looking widely, you recognize that a lot of what's being promoted leads us nowhere good. There can also be lifestyle differences. You want to raise your children a certain way. You want to homeschool, or you want private school, or you want public school, or you want to live in the country and raise your kids there, or it could be anything or something else. And today, no excuses, everybody. I want to hear from you. So if you sign into the live stream on X, if you go on to sign in on Daily Cloud, if you go in to the Daily Cloud page on Facebook, send me your comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know your experiences. We are now a group, so we need to share things with each other. And I'm very happy to be able to do that. So we're going to dive a little deeper. We're going to talk about the social bonds, because we're going to talk about why people ostracize. What's their purpose for treating other people badly? What about those social bonds? Why do we have those? Why do we care what other people think? You know, wouldn't it be nice if we could just say, oh, I don't care. You do what you want, I don't care. But that's not how it works. That's not how our brain works. And there are reasons behind that. But of course, always, 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 we end on a proactive note. We end on a high note when we talk about if you have been ostracized, whether it's personally or professionally, how you can still win in spite of it all. Now, please, again, I really want to hear from you. Sign in. Talk to me. I want to know your story. January is here. Can you believe it? How are you doing with your 2025 New Year's resolutions? One of my top resolutions is to focus on my well being. And we all know one of the foundations of well being is a good night's sleep. So, if I could do just one thing to improve my sleep and overall well being, it's taking the number one mineral for that, which also helps me with focus, stress levels, and mood regulation during the day. Yes, I'm talking about magnesium. Specifically, I'm talking about the magnesium breakthrough by Bioptimizers. The 7 different forms of magnesium in this supplement are involved in over 600 different biochemical reactions in the body. Pretty much every function in your body gets upgraded when you take magnesium, from the quality of your sleep to your body and your brain function, from metabolism to stress levels. And let's face it, even if your 2025 resolution is not to focus on your health as it is mine, how are you really going to be able to achieve all of those goals without quality sleep and stress management support? Do you really think that could happen? So do yourself a favor and make magnesium breakthrough part of your daily routine this year so you can get the vitality you need to conquer your dreams. Go to bioptimizers.com/dailycloud right now and enter the promo code dailycloud to get 10% off any order. And if you subscribe, not only will you get amazing discounts and free gifts, you'll make sure your monthly supply is guaranteed. Again, that's bioptimizers.com/dailycloud using the promo code dailycloud. So let's talk about social groups, because most of the time when we get ostracized, we think about, oh, my feelings are hurt. And if this is your first time here, or if you're new to this, you may not have heard me, but I have been ostracized, alienated, and shunned by some portion of my family for more than a decade. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that as a social psychologist, I don't just buy into the cultural norms that are promoted by mainstream media because I see where they lead and I think it's nowhere good. And although I make it a policy that I don't offer advice to someone unless they specifically ask me, even if they're a relative, just my not happily participating has been enough for a few of my family members to shun me for a long time. And that hurts. And why it hurts? Social grouping is part of our brain function. It's part of our primal brain function. It's not something that's a sign of weakness. It's normal for humans to group themselves into tightly knit, genetically linked groups. Traditionally, it's been linked with survival, because if you were isolated, you were prone to predators, whether those predators were animals or other groups, other tribes that knew they could attack you without retaliation. But social isolation, surprise, surprise, is still linked with increased health risks. If you want to look at, especially over the age of 50, what is linked with you having more illnesses and dying early, it is having no one close to you in your life. Now, a little bit of this can be mitigated by having a pet you take care of. Pets do more than give to us. They give a lot to us. So anything you give them is more than returned. But it's still not the same. It's not the same having dogs or cats and not having any real links with other people. So we're going to talk about that because, again, this is not about, I think I'm, independent and everything. We're talking about how your brain works. And the parts of the brain we're talking about, your primal brain, your emotional brain, they don't ask your permission. So your other parts of your brain, the frontal lobe, the language part, can be going on with its hand on its hip talking about, oh, I don't need anybody. But the other parts of your brain are going to be making very different decisions. So it's something you really need to think about. Ostracism is not only emotionally uncomfortable and psychologically uncomfortable. Did you know your brain processes it similarly to physical pain? It's called social pain. So when you're feeling rejected, again, please don't think it's a sign of weakness. It is normal. It is a sign of being a normal human being. If it doesn't bother you to be completely socially excluded, you need to talk to somebody because that's not a good sign. There's also something that I want to talk about for a little while, and that's social warmth. Now, a lot of people there's a lot of been toing and froing across the political aisle about something called microaggressions. And people are being taught to see themselves as perennial victims. And I'm going to be asking my guest about this one too. We're going to come back to this because this is a big deal. Microaggressions, people, discrimination that's not overt. There is something to that. However, one of the challenges they have with this, they don't ever ask the people, what were you projecting? Were you smiling? And we're going to talk in a minute about what social warmth is and how it's communicated. Increased tariffs on our trade partners, tax cuts, and regulation changes. Learn why gold is a viable diversification tactic now more than ever. Birch Gold, the only gold company I trust, is releasing their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. To get your free copy, along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold, text Daily Clout to the number 989898. Here's the facts. The national debt continues to increase. Our interest payments on the national debt also continues to increase. Gold is still your hedge against a weakened dollar and national debt and other crises. And Birch Gold is still the company I trust to help convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Text Daily Clout to 989898 for your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. There's no obligation, only information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of happy customers, including me, you too can trust Birch Gold. Text Daily Clout to the number 989898 today. So when we're talking about this social warmth, it is a lot more important than you think. Now, I do not advocate people walking around feeling like victims. We are really hurting an entire generation by teaching that. But we also are hurting them by not asking them, what were you doing? So always the blame is outside. How were you treated? And I think I've spoken about this before, that after spending my first few years in Australia and I went back to the States, I went back to a place that I've been many times because my dad retired there. And nothing really politically had changed very much. But when I went back after 2 years, every place I went, people started conversations with me. Now, I didn't look any different. I didn't sound any different. What was different? I was living in a country where people showed social warmth to each other and they included me in that. I just wasn't wary anymore. And people responding like that, getting used to that. When I went back to the States, I wasn't wary there either. And all of a sudden, these people who I thought were so cold and distant, all of a sudden were very warm. So if we're going to talk about social warmth, we're talking about microaggressions. I really don't like that, because if you're not an expert, it's really hard to determine that. We need to talk about both directions. Here's what social warmth includes, in case you're ever wondering about it. Eye contact. Do people make eye contact, and do they hold eye contact? Do they smile? Are they willing to touch you? And I don't mean creepy touching. I'm talking about the fact that they say, oh my God, and they touch your arm, or they, put their hand in your back. Oh my goodness, how are you? Maybe even give you a hug. Open nonverbal gestures. Is their posture open? Are they non-wary in the way, their shoulders are back? They're like, yeah, what can I do? How can I help you? Open face, open smiles. Do they initiate conversation? One thing you'll notice if you go to down under to Queensland and to Australia, especially Queensland, but Australia and New Zealand, you'll notice random strangers will just start talking to you. It reminds me of Tennessee, one of my favorite states. I know I'm not supposed to play favorites, but my whole family has gone to Tennessee at different times, and all of us had the most wonderful experience being treated so well by people who didn't look like us, okay? Because we talked before about the social grouping. Most people are more comfortable with people who look like them, but how friendly are you to somebody who looks nothing like you? And in Tennessee, we all had that same experience. I've had the same experience in Texas. Something about those T states, just friendly, nice folks. Will they listen? Do they actually listen to what's going on? Are they respectful of you? Or do they dismiss you or not give you the time or tell you they're too busy? If you're asking for help, do they actually accommodate and actually listen to what you have to say? All of that is included in social warmth. It also includes inviting you to social activities, remembering details about you. How's your mom? Is she still having the problems with her back? Inviting you to meet their family or their significant other, inviting you into their house. So social activities could be inviting you. Everybody's going out for drinks after work, or they're going to a picnic and they say, hey, would you like to join us? This is like actually asking, hey, we're having dinner and we're having a few friends over. Would you like to come to my home? That's a big deal. Trusting you if you say something. I know, especially in Australia and New Zealand, I've had incidents where something has happened and I needed to get something in on a certain day. In fact, the first time I was renewing my visa for Australia, and it was 5 p.m. on the day when my visa was expiring. And there was one piece of paper I didn't have. So the woman brought her manager over at immigration and said, he asked me, why do you want to stay in Australia? And I said, because I grew up watching and listening to Dr. King talking about being treated wanting his kids to be treated not according to the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And I said, for the first time in my life, it's true for me. And that's here. He looked at me. Sorry, I get a little weepy. He said, get your paperwork in when you can. Welcome to Australia. And we can do this in the States. We need to stop. Oh, God, I know how to fix this. Let me help. I want it to be like that in the United States, too. I want people to be treated according to the content of their character, which is why I'm against DEI, why I'm against affirmative action. Treating people with respect, trusting you. I know that I've had stores that I shop in and said, oh, my goodness, I forgot my wallet. They said, bring it next time. Being trusted is a sign of social warmth. People saying we, oh my goodness, we are so doing this or we are so doing that. People including you. And what happens is, if you've always been somebody who's been included, you wouldn't necessarily know what it feels like when you're not. Someone doesn't have to actually go out to harm you, to just not treat you with the same social warmth they treat other people, and you witness that, and it can be very painful. And going along with our topic today, if you're somebody who's used to being treated with social warmth, but because you voted a certain way, they no longer do it, it can be excruciating. Social warmth is really important. It's a constant reminder of how much you're accepted, how much you're valued. Natural disasters are a reality. From the fires in Maui and now Los Angeles to Hurricane Helene, we're watching catastrophic disasters take out entire towns in 24 hours with minimal warning, resulting in a lack of basic resources. I get it. We're wired to think it won't happen here. Then, in a blink of an eye, you're in survival mode. Being prepared in advance is your best defense against the unexpected, and that includes unplanned illnesses. The wellness company's emergency kit completely removes the gatekeeper and subsides panic by providing personalized mini pharmacies in the convenience of your own home. Bacterial infections, staph, bite wounds, UTIs, strep throat, respiratory illnesses. You no longer have to be at the mercy of someone else to help you. The best idea is to have some basic medicines in a safe place in which you need them. Getting an emergency kit is fully digital. You fill out an intake form and a pharmacist reviews and approves it. Then you receive your kit in around 2 weeks. The medical board approved guidebook crafted by Dr. Peter McCullough is included with each kit and tells you exactly what to do. This is preparedness simplified. Invest in your family's self-managed insurance plan. Visit dailycloudhealth.com and use the code DailyCloud to save 10% and get free shipping. USA residents only. And when we're talking about social warmth, any of you really thinking about this? About the social warmth, the absence of social warmth, the presence of social warmth? Why so many people like going to the South? Because they're taught in the South basically to extend social warmth to everyone. Natural disasters are a reality. Can make a huge, sorry about that, that can make a huge difference in your life, your psychological health, your emotional health. And remember, one of the ways a lot of people are not aware of how change happens, it doesn't happen at the extreme. Most of the time, unless you're wearing MAGA gear and you're like some of the stuff we see online where people are saying, I don't want to sit next to that person. Removal or cooling of social warmth is usually where the social ostracism begins. It doesn't begin at the end. It doesn't begin with you being marched out or fired. It starts with them not inviting you, not talking to you, not asking about your day, not asking about your kids. Now, there are two types of people who actually experience this removal of social warmth. The difference in social warmth is seen when you are an in-group member and perhaps you're making choices, decisions, or have views that your group doesn't like. So they start cooling towards you. Or you could be somebody that never actually received it because you're so different from them and people perceive you as different that they never extended it to you. Most of the time when I faced discrimination, it was the first type, that I was just perceived to be physically very different from the other people. And so the warmth they extended to each other just wasn't extended to me. They didn't go out of their way to try to hurt me or make me feel bad. But having been in places where I did experience social warmth, I could tell the difference. What about you? What do you think? And it's also used as a tactic to get non-compliant group members back in line. Sometimes when you don't, if you have a viewpoint that everybody doesn't agree with, maybe you didn't get vaccinated and everybody else did. Maybe you said, I don't know, I might vote for Trump because I really like Bobby Kennedy. And other people were like, no. It's a way of trying to get you back in line. Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see a plump, hydrated glow instead of more fine lines and wrinkles? Discover Native Path Collagen, made with only type 1 and type 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body. Found in your cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, and gut, types 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners. Plus, it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. Completely flavorless, Native Path Collagen can be added to anything: coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. Its peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes perfectly without clumping. And the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, including me, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice. Plus, they offer an 800 number for any questions about usage, recipes, or ingredients. And you'll speak to a real person who's ready to help. Join their private Facebook community to share success stories, recipes, and support each other on this journey called life. Visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your transformation today. That is getnativepath, getnativepath.com/DAILYCLOUT. Go ahead and do it. It works. Now, we've had a couple of little things happening during the little break where I was telling you about I've told you before about using Native Path Collagen, and now everybody at my hair salon, my braid salon, wants it because they said, oh my God, your skin, oh my God. But we're going to continue talking about this social warmth thing. And I've had a comment. I'm going to have Melinda Richards join me from Australia. She's an author and influencer. I've had her on before because she always provides such interesting insight. And I have someone named Paul who is trying to join us as well. I hope we're able to get him in the studio. So welcome, Melinda.
Oh, hello. Hello. Happy New Year. It's so good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you. I just had a comment from someone whose name is from X called Human Being. Okay. What about your neighbors getting the new landlord to place an eviction notice on your apartment door after 28 years living there? Why? I did not take the jabberoo or wear a mask. I can't help but wonder if that person is Australian. Jabberoo sounds like something Australians would say, but absolutely.
It's a really amazing show and an amazing topic that you've put together today, Dina, because all of us listening to you, or I would say the majority of us, this really hits home. This goes really close to our hearts. A lot of us were hurt. A lot of us were in disbelief. And, you know, we try to get through it. We try to be strong. But this idea that of social warmth that you talk about is really particularly it's a really particularly beautiful way of describing what many of us actually started to lose a lot of for that period of time. And I mean, for me, it happened slowly. It was sort of gentle. I think the people that really, really liked me in 2021, I've got these really beautiful friends in my life. They were trying to be gentle about the ostracization. And I think that social warmth is a really amazing way to describe the pulling back a little bit on that. And I mean, they're all back in the fold now. And I've had a lot of people come to me and apologize. And I've had this sort of re-embracing of so many friendships and deeper connections now. But it was a very, very difficult time. And I think this is something that society needs to openly talk about. Like what you're saying has to be done at a societal level for us to completely heal, because I think many of us haven't really healed from that experience yet.
Well, if you look at this little list, exclusion from social activities, limited eye contact, we talked about not initiating conversation, not inviting you to things where they invite other people, just treating you differently than they have other people. Fewer smiles.
You've got the extremes then that we experience the lack of social warmth and a lot of those issues. But then you have the extremes of people that were completely cut off by their families, were evicted from their homes, lost their jobs, lost their careers.
That's the last one, the shunning or the ghosting. But one of the reasons I presented it this way, because I always want people to have helpful information to help understand what's going on in their lives, but also make it easier for you to explain to someone else. And because, I teach with my Healing the Rift program, I talk about bias and how bias is a tangible thing. And while it's normal, it can be very costly to you and to the other people. A lot of people did not understand what people meant when they said microaggressions. What they were talking about is a lack of social warmth.
Yes.
But which is the outsider needing to know that, because that is something they can change. But it also, the individual needs to be aware of, how warm was I? I've seen people that walk around with a scowl on their face or just like a hard look on their face. And they're like, everybody thinks I'm mean. People don't come up and talk to me. I even did an experiment with a friend. We were out at a cafe and I said, okay, move your legs like this, change your face like this, head up, look around, look at people, have a small smile on your face. And we had several people come over and talk to us. She was like,
oh, wow.
No one talks to me because I'm Black, because we were the only Black people in this environment. And this was in New York. And I said, it's not because you're Black, it's because you look closed off and hostile. And so I had her change her nonverbals. Yeah. And all of us, we were invited to a party. I mean, I'm not saying it'll fix everything, but one of the biggest problems, and I guess I'm a social psychologist, so this gets to me, everything being taught to people about social exclusion, about ostracism, about discrimination is so one-sided. Nothing can ever be fixed one-sided. Again, how are you acting? Are you making eye contact and smiling? I've gone places and I'm like, ask Zuby, go on and look up Zuby on X and find Zuby. He's got 1 million followers. He's a musician. He's a Oxford educated influencer. He's a wonderful human being. He's comes from an African background, so he's dark skinned, and everywhere he goes, everybody wants to talk to him. Why? Yeah. He has one of the most beautiful, vibrant smiles and open faces. He's also very intelligent, but it's the openness and the welcoming expression on his face. Everybody wants to take a picture with Zuby. Everybody wants to talk to Zuby, okay? You find that at social warmth, but social warmth. So when you're talking about if you haven't lost your job or been evicted and you're trying to explain to people what you suffered during COVID or what you're suffering because you voted differently than family or friends. Talk about social warmth because that's a tangible. I am not being invited to, right now, my family doesn't invite me to anything. And once Trump won the election, most of my family stopped talking to me.
Wow, that's tragic. It's tragic, but the thing is, it's probably even harder for you because you understand the psychology behind those feelings that they're having and their inability to be able to accept the decisions you make and to put their own sort of ideologies aside so they can embrace you back into the family fold. I think it's incredible, really. It's so
Yeah.
tragic and sad that this is happening to people.
Well, I went from being a removal of social warmth. So when we would have, if I weren't able to go home for Christmas or Thanksgiving, that we would do a family Zoom, and anybody that wasn't able to make it, we had a family Zoom. I stopped being included in that.
Wow.
This is years ago. And it went from emails, no emails, no contact. They don't follow me on social media. And then Trump won the election and they've had an absolute fit because all they get their news from is MSNBC and CNN. And we're going to talk about that in a little while, about what they were advocating for people to do. When people remove social warmth, now, if you're an outsider, that may be permanent. Not everybody is welcoming to outsiders, even if you try to change things and become more accommodating. But if you were a part of a group that now shunned you or is just not inviting you the same way, they're trying to get you back on board. So you have to denounce anything that disagrees with what they say is true. If you don't comply, it could get worse. As I said, for me, they tried not inviting me to things, not including me in things, not telling me when important news would happen for family members. Nothing. So it becomes more aggressive. So let's talk about types of aggression and chime in here. Anybody, Melinda, anybody that wants to talk about something that's happened to you, I want to know what happens. Human Being also responded, said, I'm now at a point where I can only talk about the weather, etc., with my close family member who's, or she blows up.
At least you've got the weather.
Well,
you've got the weather to fall back on.
I can't help but wonder if he or she is in the UK, because they talk about the weather a lot. But I found that one of the things that happens if you have people who share very different values, you do have to stay to very neutral topics. And at least if you talk about the weather, you're keeping the lines of communication open. But if they really want you to come back on board, the aggression might increase. And there are different types of aggression, and it's good to know these. Because again, in your own mind or when you're explaining what's going on to someone else, it's good to have this information. Overt aggression, frequent arguments, starting arguments with you. I've had family members that would resented me because, like, I'm getting so much education, living all over the world, not being woke. And they would start arguments with me based on things I didn't even say. And everybody would be like, she didn't even say that. But they just wanted to argue with me. They just wanted to get some hostility out, making mean comments in front of other people.
Yeah.
They're at a professional event, or you bring someone along, or I still have mixed feelings about what my sisters did with my former partner and the wonderful anthem, Your Mama Don't Wear No Drawers. But I'm not sure if that was mean or not. Sisters kind of tease each other. I don't know. But they can also do punitive actions. They break promises. They promised they would do something, or they were offering some kind of support where it could be physical support, it could be financial support, practical support, and all of a sudden they pull it back because you're not complying with what they think you should do. Here's another type. And please make note of this. I'm going to be writing a book. I've been promising for a while. I'm writing a book on veiled aggression. because this is something often that women will use. And veiled aggression is often dismissed by people who only see physical assault as aggression. Nonverbal exclusion. I'll give you an example. Nonverbal exclusion. I was in a group and this woman resented me because she was used to being queen bee of this group. And because I was different, I am very different from most groups I walk into, for one reason or another, people were curious. So what she did is she entered the group and physically stood in front of me facing the other group members.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, but that's a trust. She's trusting that I won't just push her out of the way. Everything to me is a social science experiment. I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. I have to remember that. That's a story I can tell people. But other types of exclusion, nonverbal exclusion, not facing you, not smiling you, kind of giving approving looks and nods to some group members, but never to you. That's nonverbal exclusion. Cruel, teasing, and questions like what my sisters did, trying to embarrass the heck out of me. And even now, see, the good thing I'm brown, you can't see, my cheeks still get warm when I think about what they did. It is that painful. And attempts to embarrass and humiliate. These are other types of veiled aggression. So, and then there's the extreme. They can actually throw you out, where they're like, you're not welcome here. You have to get out. A lot of people went through this. Come on, people. Let's see what human being says. She says I am completely brainwashed. No. Some people come back. I cried for the 6 weeks and got support. Yes, this is painful. What I'm talking about today is painful. It's painful emotionally. It's painful on a primal level. Your brain and heart and your systems are going, oh my God, why am I being treated like that? It doesn't even have to get to this before it hurts, but they can throw you out, fire you, not welcome you. I've lost contracts for not being woke. When I was working for Queensland government, I was treated so differently from other employees because they hired me because the way I look and thought I'd be woke. And when they asked me questions and found out I wasn't, even though I brought my A game to work, so I was doing way more than the job required because I'm trained. I got along well with everybody, never late, worked hard. They still treated me so badly that I actually talked to an attorney and they said I'd have a legal case if I wanted to sue them. That's how bad it was. Attempts at cancellation. Because of my beliefs, I had trans-identified male try to get me fired from my job as a commissioner when I was in Melbourne. They contacted the CEO of the commission where I worked and said, you need to fire her because she's a bigot. Now, unfortunately, this person didn't realize the structure of the organization. The CEO worked for me, not the other way around. I was board, she was employee. We had a good laugh about that too. And then I went to the chair and said, oh, it's so interesting this person said that. But you know what Americans are like. We're so litigious. I'm so glad you're supporting me because otherwise I'd have to sue. And I had someone from Harvard contact me. I put it online. This person's trying to get me fired. We'll give you a free team. We'll make an international incident out of this. So sometimes you get backup when your people are trying to cancel you. If somebody tries to cancel you, please don't be passive. Don't take it. You don't have to. And sometimes people have actually faced physical assault. I've seen people who are asking questions or wearing placards on the street actually be physically assaulted because they are not promoting the woke narrative.
And it's also very interesting too, Dina, that I saw a lot of that aggression too during the election when people were out supporting Trump, and then you saw this sort of aggressiveness, physical aggressiveness starting to happen. And there were a lot of videos and a lot of social media posts about that as well, is that people just couldn't even handle walking past people that had a different opinion or perspective from them, and they became aggressive. There's just so much footage out there of that.
It's horrendous.
Yeah.
And what have you experienced? I know more than human being have experienced some of this. Come on. In fact, where's Roscoe? Roscoe, where are you? Dude, you're supposed to be here. It's just, yeah, it's a mess.
I think one thing too, Dina, with you actually sharing this though, is that it's brilliant to get people to start to actually open up about their experiences that they may never have shared before. So I think the wonderful thing about something like this is it's the start of people coming out and sharing their pain, because it has been painful. And when you're sharing this and talking about it, you're starting to heal. And I would love to see this happen on a grander scale. I would love to see society start to tap into some of these experiences, because it's been very extreme with the Trump, a point win and the election win that he had, and it's been very extreme with COVID, and sometimes it's very extreme with the climate change narrative too. So these extreme topics are bringing out some really interesting microaggressions, some very interesting overt aggression. It's
veiled
interesting to
aggression.
see. Yeah.
Yes. And when you have a choice, just like what human beings have. When you're dealing with people who are angry with you for being different or holding different beliefs, these are your choices, basically. You can pretend to comply, which is really hard to do. That's painful. Comply just enough to stay in group. Find neutral ground and neutral topics, which is what I do with the few woke friends that I still have. We never talk about politics. We don't talk about anything contentious. Or here's what I want all of you to do who've gone through what I've gone through. Let's find other groups. We don't want to have to pretend all the time. Yeah. And so now we're going to just quickly, because we only have a few minutes left, I want to quickly just go through some of the most popular ways people have seen first the reduction in social warmth, and then some of the more overt ways of being excluded. COVID. And yes, even though when the information was available all along about how bad the vaccines were, and for those people who ignored it and who listened to their leaders who were telling them they were killing grandma or causing other people to die, that's a horrible thing to do to people. So I understand why some people complied. So, and get in touch with me. We can make a whole show off something, and you can be a guest in the studio if you have something you want to share. What about politics? We discussed before where people have been shunned for voting for Trump. Again, they knew I voted for Trump in 2016 and 2020, but when he won this time, that was too much for my sisters, and all of them have completely shunned me. Any of you been locked out due to politics? Let me know. Okay, woke principles. I don't share any of them. Why? Because I'm a social psychologist. I want to do what works. People being able to get along, great, but we need to have a moral code. We need to have a strong foundation. We need to have personal accountability. You can't give in to every whim. If it feels good, do it as a way to hell, quite literally, and you're taking a lot of other people with you. But people in so many organizations, in so many groups and subgroups, you either accept everything the woke say, or first, there's withdrawal of social warmth, which a lot of celebrities faced if they said something that went against the narrative even a little. And that's encouragement. Get back in line, or else we're going to have everybody boycott your films and you won't get hired. Anybody else? If you've dealt with any issues because you're not woke, you know where I am on X. You know, you can follow me on Facebook. Write to me. We can make a whole topic just out of this, because this is crazy. What about moral and religious clashes? Again, if you are Christian, you have probably faced a lot of clashes, and it's being encouraged by what you see in books, on TV, and in films, where people are being told you're allowed to bully people who are Christian, and Christian views are treated as superstition and naive and very wrong. Lifestyle incompatibilities, family structure, child rearing practices, your love life. I've never really shunned somebody because of love life. Although I have to say, my youngest sister, I was really disappointed when she married her ex-husband. He'd been married 3 times already, had had another several fiancés, and she'd been warned off by one of them. And he had all these physical ailments that are inherited. I was like, oh, and I have another friend who has the worst taste of anybody I've ever met. I still love her, but golly gee, health issues. Sometimes when people get cancer, people treat it like it's contagious. Location. City people and urban people sometimes don't get along. So what do you think, Melinda?
Well, I think this topic is important. It's very, very important that we start to understand some of the basic traits of human nature so we can heal and bring society back together the way we were probably a little bit more cohesive previously. I think the woke narrative and I think the division that's been created with some of these big topics, this is the sort of thing that we need to address, and we will make our society better for it. I think in both Australia and Five Eyes countries, in the United States, UK is going through a terrible time right now. And a lot of it is people putting their hand up and saying, do you know what? I am going to be more accepting of other people's opinions. And I'm actually going to take a look in the mirror and I'm going to do a lot more social warmth. I love this social warmth topic that you brought up today. Absolutely brilliant. This is something that we can do every day.
I was working at Queensland government with people whose values not only were different from mine, but I opposed how they were living their lives. But what they did well, when they did something well, I acknowledged it,
Absolutely.
talked about it. So it was a very comfortable environment because we treated each other well. There's no way I was changing my beliefs. I certainly never brought it up and asked them to do anything differently.
Yes.
Because one of the things, if any of you, okay, all you viewers, anybody knows someone high up in the Trump administration, they need me to work with them because we need to bring the country together before it explodes.
Yes.
And the Democrats are trying to get it to explode because they're not in power. Let's cut them off at the knees. Let's leave the extremists because I can't influence them. But everybody else, we can put some things in place to make this happen. But I've got to get with the people who are making these decisions. This stuff can easily be taught.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't tell people they have to look like me, vote like me, pray like me. We just have to treat each other well. And if we can add some social warmth, acknowledge what somebody does well. That's social warmth, and it's a really valuable commodity that somebody says, oh my goodness, you basically saved me. Look how you helped me. Now, because this topic is so important right now, and talking to Melinda actually gave me the idea for next week. We're going to continue this by talking about forgiveness. You noticed that Melinda mentioned earlier that she's brought a lot of the people that were alienated during the COVID era back into the fold. What about that? Do we? What does forgiveness mean to you? So should we forgive the people who hurt us? What does that mean? Or do we stand our ground? What do we do? I hope you tune in. I hope any of you go on X, go on Facebook and give me your email address. And if you want to be in the studio, I can have up to 10 people in the studio. Let's have a chat. because this is all about you. This is about making your life better. I thank you all so much for joining us. This is such a human being has a little note, forgive, but don't be a doormat. Oh, human being follows you too, Melinda. Melinda has a lot of good stuff to say. So that's one of the reasons I have her on so often. But
Oh, you're too
I
kind.
want Roscoe Sings to come on. I want all of, he said, human beings said, thank you, wonderful ladies. You're welcome. And we will see you next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.